President Chang stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Galactic Cooperative Council building, watching as representatives from hundreds of alien species arrived on Earth for the first truly democratic galactic government in recorded history. 6 months had passed since the end of the war, and the changes across the galaxy had been remarkable. The three major powers that had once ruled through fear and domination now existed as equal members of the Cooperative Council. The Vorthan Empire had dissolved its rigid hierarchy, allowing individual creativity for the first time in thousands of years. The Silicon Collective had abandoned its hive mind limitations, and individual members were learning to think independently. The Plasma Lords had evolved beyond their warrior culture into something more sophisticated than endless conflict. Chang smiled as she watched former enemies working together on projects that benefited everyone. The Vorthan skill with biological sciences, combined with human innovation, had produced medical advances that extended life for all species. Silicon Collective computing power, merged with human creativity, was solving mathematical problems that had puzzled scientists for millennia. Plasma Lords' energy manipulation techniques, enhanced by human engineering, were providing clean power to worlds that had never known abundance. Ambassador Lim approached, carrying the daily reports from council meetings held in the building below. The progress reports are extraordinary, she said. Species that had not developed new technology in centuries are making breakthrough discoveries every day. The innovation rate across the galaxy has increased by over 3,000% since we established the cooperative system. Chang nodded as she reviewed the reports. The most remarkable change was not technological but social. Civilizations that had been locked in static hierarchies for thousands of years were discovering the benefits of cooperation over competition. Young members of ancient species were contributing ideas that their elders had never considered possible. The key difference was humanity's approach to galactic leadership. Unlike previous dominant civilizations that ruled through force and maintained power by keeping others weak, humanity worked to make everyone stronger. Human scientists shared their discoveries freely. Human engineers helped other species improve their own technology. Human diplomats established trade agreements that benefited all parties involved. Chang opened the communication channel that connected her to every world in the galaxy. Today we celebrate the first anniversary of the Galactic Cooperative Council, she announced. 6 months ago, many of you feared that humanity would become another dominating force, seeking to control and suppress other species. Instead, we have built something that has never existed before. True partnership between equals. The response from across the galaxy was overwhelming. Species that had once been enemies were now allies, working together on projects that advanced everyone's capabilities. Former subjects of the major powers had become independent civilizations, contributing their unique skills and knowledge to galactic society. But the most significant change was in the major powers themselves. The Vorthan Empire had discovered that allowing creativity and independent thinking made them more advanced, not weaker. The Silicon Collective found that individual consciousness enhanced their collective intelligence rather than threatening it. The Plasma Lords learned that cooperation achieved more than conquest ever could. Chang continued her address to the galaxy. You chose conflict when you could have chosen progress. But it is not too late to choose better. The war taught us all important lessons about the dangers of fear and the benefits of working together. Now we have the opportunity to build a civilization that celebrates the strengths of every species. The new galactic government operated on principles that had never been tried on such a scale. Decisions were made through consensus rather than force. Resources were shared based on need rather than power. Technology was developed cooperatively rather than competitively. Most importantly, every species had an equal voice regardless of their military strength or economic power. Dr. Park, now serving as the Council Chief Science Officer, reported on the most recent breakthrough discoveries. In just 6 months, we have solved energy problems that have limited civilizations for centuries, developed faster than light communication that connects every world instantly, and created manufacturing techniques that can provide abundance for everyone. The results of cooperation exceed anything achieved through domination. Chang watched as alien children played together in the parks, surrounding the council building, speaking multiple languages and learning from each other in ways their parents had never imagined possible. This was the real victory, not the military defeat of hostile civilizations, but the creation of a society where every species could reach their full potential. The final message Chang broadcast would be remembered throughout galactic history as the moment when civilization truly began. You chose conflict when we offered cooperation, but that choice led to something better than either of us imagined. The galaxy now belongs to all of us together. Welcome to Humanity Galaxy, but remember, it is not human technology or human weapons that make us strong. It is our belief that everyone deserves the chance to become their best selves. The broadcast ended with images of the cooperative projects happening across the galaxy, former enemies building wonders together that none could have achieved alone, species that had been suppressed for millennia, making discoveries that advanced all of civilization, worlds that had known only scarcity now enjoying abundance through shared resources and knowledge. Chang looked up at the stars, knowing that humanity had achieved something more valuable than military victory. They had proven that cooperation was stronger than domination, that diversity was more powerful than uniformity, and that the best way to lead was to help everyone else succeed. The aliens had feared human expansion because they thought it meant their own decline. Instead, humanity had shown them that when everyone grows stronger together, there is no limit to what civilization can achieve. The galaxy that had been divided by fear and competition had become united by hope and shared purpose, and that transformation would echo through the stars for generations to come. Kim had been waiting for this moment for 5 long years, ever since the intelligence reports first suggested that the 3 most powerful species in the galaxy were planning something big against humanity. He touched the communication panel on his command chair and opened the channel to Earth surface. Captain Lee responded immediately from the planetary command center. His voice carried the weight of 200 billion human lives spread across dozens of worlds throughout the galaxy. Lee had been Kim's best friend since they attended the Earth Space Academy together 20 years ago, back when humanity was still learning how to build proper starships. The alien transmission came exactly at noon Earth time. Kim watched the holographic display. As Admiral Yoon of the Vorthan Empire appeared, his blue skin seemed to glow with confidence, and his 6 arms moved in gestures that meant victory in his culture. Behind him stood representatives of the other 2 species, the Silicon Collective. Delegate looked like a walking computer made of metal and crystal, while the Plasma Lords Ambassador appeared as pure energy barely contained in a humanoid shape. Admiral Yoon spoke in perfect English, though his accent made every word sound like a threat. Humanity has grown too dangerous, he said. Your species learns too quickly, adapts too easily, and improves our technology better than we can ourselves. This cannot continue. You have 24 hours to surrender completely. All humans will be relocated to a single planet under our supervision. Your weapons will be destroyed, your ships will be scrapped, and your expansion into the galaxy will end forever. Kim felt his jaw tighten as he listened. The aliens were afraid that much was obvious. 50 years ago, when humanity first met alien civilizations, Earth was nothing more than a primitive world with basic rocket technology. The aliens had been generous, sharing knowledge about faster-than-light travel, energy weapons, and advanced materials. They thought humans would remain grateful junior partners, forever happy to receive scraps of technology from their advanced neighbors. How wrong they had been. Within 10 years, human engineers had reverse-engineered every piece of alien technology they could get their hands on. Within 20 years, they had improved most of it within 30 years. Human ships were faster than alien vessels, human weapons hit harder than alien guns, and human colonies were spreading across the galaxy faster than anyone thought possible. The aliens who once looked down on humanity as primitive children now saw them as dangerous competitors. Species that had dominated the galaxy for thousands of years suddenly found themselves being outperformed by newcomers who had barely learned to leave their home planet. Human traders were making better deals. Human diplomats were forming stronger alliances, and human scientists were making discoveries that left alien researchers confused and jealous. But the worst part for the established powers was that humans kept making friends with smaller species. The galaxy was full of civilizations that the major powers preferred to keep weak and dependent. Humanity treated these species as equal sharing. Technology and forming partnerships, the Vorthan Empire Silicon Collective and Plasma, lords watched in horror as their carefully maintained system of galactic control. Admiral Vex Thera floated inside his command room, feeling very proud and confident. His forearms moved smoothly over the glowing control panels as he watched reports from his massive invasion fleet. The human colonies had been quiet since his warning message. Maybe these weak creatures finally understood that resistance was useless. The Vorthan Empire had conquered hundreds of worlds across the galaxy using the same simple plan: surround the enemy with overwhelming force, demand surrender. Destroy anyone who refused to obey it had worked every single time for over 200 years. These pathetic humans would be no different from all the other species that now served as slaves. His tactical officer suddenly made a worried clicking sound with his mandibles. Admiral, we are detecting something strange approaching from the dark side of the seventh moon. The energy readings are very confusing, our computers say. It is a human ship, but the size measurements make no sense. At Alvex Thara turned his eye stalks toward the main display screen with mild curiosity. A single dot appeared on their sensors, moving at speeds that should have been impossible. The energy output numbers were climbing higher and higher, suggesting a vessel larger than anything they had ever encountered, but that could not be right because humans barely had the technology to fly between stars. Run a complete check on all our sensor systems, he ordered with dismissive clicks. The readings must be wrong. Humans do not have ships bigger than our smallest scouts. Their largest vessels are tiny metal boxes that can barely carry food and basic supplies. Our intelligence reports are very clear about their primitive capabilities, but the mysterious readings did not change. Instead, they grew stronger and more frightening as the unknown object moved closer. Other Vorthan commanders across the fleet began sending panicked messages through their communication networks. Fear crept into voices that had always been filled with arrogant confidence. The thing approaching them registered power levels that broke their measuring instruments. If the sensors were correct, this single human vessel contained more destructive capability than their entire invasion fleet combined, but such numbers were impossible according to everything they knew about galactic technology. On the bridge of the Iron Phoenix, Captain Lee Juan watched the alien fleet beginning to panic through his view screen. Their perfect attack formation started to break apart as individual ships moved to investigate the approaching threat. Some of the smaller vessels were already turning away from their assigned positions. Lieutenant Kim De-Yoon monitored the frantic alien communications. With growing satisfaction, Captain, their commanders are requesting permission to retreat. Some of them are saying their sensors must be broken because the readings they are getting cannot be real. They keep asking each other how humans could possess such advanced technology. Commander Park Soo studied the tactical display showing thousands of confused alien vessels. The enemy fleet that had seemed so organized and threatening just minutes ago was now falling into chaos as panic spread through their ranks. They had expected to fight helpless farmers, not encounter something that defied their understanding of physics. The Iron Phoenix moved steadily closer to the blockade, its massive engines pushing the giant battleship forward like an unstoppable force of nature. The ship was still mostly hidden by advanced stealth systems, but small energy leaks were enough to terrify the alien sensors. Captain Lee decided it was time to end the mystery. Activate all systems, he commanded. Drop the stealth fields. Let them see exactly what human engineering has accomplished while they thought we were playing with farming tools and trading goods. The transformation was immediate and shocking. Every stealth system on the Iron Phoenix shut down at once, revealing the true size and power of the massive human warship. Space itself seemed to bend around the enormous vessel as its presence became fully visible to every sensor in the star system. The alien fleet reacted as if they had seen a nightmare come to life. Thousands of voices screamed across their communication channels as the impossible human battleship materialized before them. The Iron Phoenix was not just larger than their biggest ships, it was larger than some of their space stations. Admiral Vex Thera stared at his display screens in complete horror and disbelief. The human ship that appeared before him was a mountain of metal and weapons that stretched beyond the edges of his tactical display. Its energy output Registered levels that his computer said were impossible for any known technology. This cannot be real, he whispered to himself in his native language. Humans are primitive creatures who barely understand space travel. They live on farms and trade simple goods between their few small colonies. How can they possess a vessel that makes our greatest battleships look like tiny insects? His communications officer reported with a voice full of terror. Admiral, the human ship is broadcasting on all frequencies. They are speaking directly to you. The message is being translated into our language by systems we did not know they possessed. Captain Li Wan appeared on every screen throughout the Vorthan fleet. His calm human face looked directly at Admiral Vexthera as he spoke with quiet authority. This is Captain Li of the Earth Defense Force. You have exactly 10 minutes to withdraw all your ships from human space. This is your only warning. The alien admiral felt his confidence crumbling. Like sand in a storm, his forearms trembled as he tried to process what he was seeing. The intelligence reports had been completely wrong. Humans were not weak, primitive farmers. They were something far more dangerous than anyone in the galaxy had realized. All around him, his bridge crew stared at their instruments in shock and fear. The power readings from the single human vessel exceeded the combined firepower of their entire invasion fleet. Their most advanced weapons would barely scratch the surface of that impossible ship. Admiral Vexthera realized with growing horror that his empire had made a terrible mistake. They had attacked a sleeping giant thinking it was a helpless child. Now that giant was awake, and it was angry. The consequences of this discovery would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. The 10-minute countdown began as both fleets faced each other across the darkness of space. The Vorthan Empire, that had never known defeat, was about to learn what real power looked like, and humanity was finally ready to show the galaxy exactly what they had been hiding among the stars. Captain Li Huan looked at the timer counting down on his display screen. 8 minutes remained before his deadline expired. The alien fleet was moving into attack positions, but their formations looked shaky and uncertain. Fear had replaced their earlier confidence as they struggled to understand what they were facing. Admiral Vexthera floated in his command chamber, trying to make an impossible decision. His empire had built its reputation on never backing down from any fight. They had conquered countless worlds by showing overwhelming force and crushing anyone who dared resist. But this situation was completely different from anything they had encountered before. The single human battleship that faced his fleet was reading power levels that seemed to mock the laws of physics. His tactical computers kept showing error messages because they could not process the weapon signatures coming from the Iron Phoenix. The ship was so advanced it might as well have been built by God. 6 minutes left on the countdown, and still the alien admiral hesitated. His officers looked at him with growing panic in their eyes. They had never seen their commander show uncertainty before. Admiral Vexthera had always been the perfect example of Vorthan military pride and aggression, but pride was a dangerous thing when facing an enemy you did not understand. The intelligence reports had said humans were weak traders and farmers with barely functional space technology, yet here was a single human ship that outgunned his entire invasion force. How many more of these impossible vessels might be hidden in human space? On the Iron Phoenix, Commander Park Su monitored the alien communications with professional interest. Their officers were arguing among themselves about whether to attack or retreat. Some wanted to flee immediately, while others demanded they maintain imperial honor by fighting regardless of the odds. Lieutenant Kim Dayun translated the most important messages for Captain Li. The alien commanders are split into two groups, or half of them want to withdraw and report back to their empire. The other half are saying they cannot return home without either victory or death. They consider retreat to be worse than destruction. Captain Li nodded slowly as he watched the enemy fleet struggling with their decision. He understood the pressure Admiral Vexthera was under. The Vorthan Empire had never shown weakness to anyone. Backing down from humans would destroy their reputation across the galaxy, but attacking the Iron Phoenix would destroy something far more important, their lives. 4 minutes remaining, and the alien formations were becoming more organized. Admiral Vexthera seemed to be choosing the path of military honor over common sense. The largest Vorthan battleships moved to the front of their fleet, while smaller vessels spread out to surround the lone human ship. The Iron Phoenix waited patiently in the center of the forming alien Trappett's massive weapons remained powered but not yet aimed. The ship looked almost peaceful floating there in the darkness, but everyone who could read energy signatures knew it was actually a sleeping volcano ready to explode. Captain Lee opened a communication channel to the alien fleet one final time. Admiral Vexthera, I can see your ships moving into attack positions. You still have 3 minutes to reconsider this decision. Once the fighting starts, there will be no opportunity for surrender or retreat. Choose was Lee. The alien commander received the message, but his pride would not let him accept it. His empire had ruled through fear and strength for centuries. If he backed down from a single human ship, word would spread throughout the galaxy that the mighty Vorthans could be intimidated by anyone. 2 minutes left, and Admiral Vexthera made his choice. All ships prepare for a coordinated assault. Focus maximum firepower on the human vessel. Target their engines and weapon systems. First, if we can disable their movement and offensive capabilities, we can capture their advanced technology for the Empire. The Vorthan fleet began charging their weapons systems, thousands of energy cannons and plasma torpedo tubes filled with destructive power. While their shield generators hummed at maximum strength, they were preparing to unleash enough firepower to destroy entire planets. Commander Park Soo watched the energy readings climb on his tactical display and shook his head sadly. Captain, they are really going to attack us. Their weapon systems are charging to full power. It appears they have chosen death over dishonor. Captain Lee felt no satisfaction as he gave his next order. All stations prepare for combat. Charge the main weapon batteries and raise defensive shields. Set all systems to full combat readiness. They have made their choice, and now they must face the consequences. 1 minute remained as both fleets prepared for a battle that would change galactic history. The alien ships formed their final attack pattern, while the Iron Phoenix simply waited like a patient predator. The human crew felt no fear because they knew exactly what their ship could do. The countdown reached 0, and Admiral Vexthera gave the order that would doom his fleet. Attack with everything we have. Show these humans the true power of the Vorthan Empire. 5,000 alien ships opened fire at the same instant. Beams of pure energy plasma torpedoes and gravity bombs streaked across space toward the lone human battleship. The combined assault contained enough destructive force to crack the surface of a moon and turn cities into glowing craters. The weapons struck the Iron Phoenix with tremendous fury, creating a light show that could be seen from neighboring star systems, but when the energy discharges faded and the plasma cleared, the human battleship remained completely undamaged. Its shields had not even flickered under the massive bombardment. Admiral Vexthera stared at his screens in absolute disbelief. The most powerful attack in Vorthan history had accomplished nothing. The human ship floated calmly in space as if 5,000 warships had not just tried to destroy it. His weapons officers reported that their targeting system showed 0 damage to the enemy vessel. Captain Lee looked out at the alien fleet with cold determination in his eyes. They had fired first, they had made their choice. Now it was time to show them the difference between Vorthan power and human engineering. Commander Park, return fire, he ordered quietly. Disable their weapon systems and engines. I want survivors who can carry word of this battle back to their empire. Let the galaxy know that humanity is no longer hiding. The Iron Phoenix began to glow with deadly energy as its weapon systems came online. The Iron Phoenix responded to the alien attack with precision that seemed almost casual. Commander Park Soo targeted the weapon systems of the nearest enemy ships and fired a single pulse from their smallest cannon. The beam crossed space in less than a heartbeat and struck a Vorthan heavy cruiser. The alien ship did not simply take damage. Instead, it convulsed like a living thing as every system aboard overloaded simultaneously. Sparks flew from control panels throughout the vessel while emergency lights flashed in panic. The cruiser went dark and began drifting helplessly through space, its crew alive but completely powerless. Admiral Vexthera watched in horror as his flagship shuddered under a direct hit from human weapons, his bridge filled with smoke and the smell of burning electronics. While damage reports flooded in from every section, the humans had not tried to destroy his ship, they had simply turned it off like flipping a switch. Impossible, he gasped as his 4 arms scrambled over emergency controls. Our shields are designed to stop planet-killing weapons. How can their attack penetrate our defenses so easily? His tactical officer could only stare at readings that made no sense according to everything they knew about space combat. The Iron Phoenix continued its methodical destruction of the Vorthan fleet. Each shot was perfectly aimed to disable rather than kill. The human gunners could have vaporized every alien vessel with their massive weapons. But Captain Lee had ordered them to show restraint. He wanted the galaxy to witness human power, not human cruelty. Ship after ship fell silent as pulse cannon fire overloaded their systems. The aliens discovered that their advanced shields were completely useless against human technology. The energy beams passed through their defenses like they were made of paper, leaving the vessels intact but helpless. Lieutenant Kim Do-yoon monitored the panic spreading through alien communications channels. Captain, their officers are reporting total system failures across the fleet. Many of them are requesting immediate evacuation orders. They cannot understand how we are disabling their ships so easily. The Vorthan Empire had conquered half the galaxy using their superior technology and overwhelming firepower. They had never encountered any species that could match their weapons or penetrate their defenses, but human science had advanced far beyond anything they could imagine. Commander Park Soo watched the tactical display as more enemy vessels went dark. We have disabled 60% of their fleet, sir. The remaining ships are trying to retreat, but their engines are too damaged to achieve escape velocity. Several commanders are requesting permission to surrender in the space of 20 minutes. The most feared military force in the galaxy had been reduced to floating scrap metal. The Iron Phoenix had accomplished what entire civilizations working together could not do. It had broken the power of the Vorthan Empire, using only a tiny fraction of its total firepower. Admiral Vex Thera tried to send evacuation orders to his surviving ships, but his communication systems were completely dead. The human weapons had specifically targeted command and control centers, leaving his fleet leaderless and confused. Individual captains made their own decisions about whether to keep fighting or give up. The few alien ships that still had working weapons continued firing at the Iron Phoenix, but their attacks were even more useless than before. The human shields absorbed planet-killing energy beams without showing any signs of stress. The massive battleship seemed completely invincible to any known form of attack. Captain Lee opened communication channels to broadcast across the entire battlefield using the Iron Phoenix transmission systems. Admiral Vex Thera, this is your final opportunity to surrender. Your fleet is defeated and your ships are helpless. Order your remaining vessels to stand down immediately. The alien commander floated in his darkened bridge, surrounded by injured officers and failing systems. His pride as a military leader warred with his responsibility to keep his crews alive. The Vorthan Empire had taught him that death was preferable to surrender, but his empire had never faced an enemy like this. Around him, other ship commanders were making their own choices. Several alien vessels activated emergency beacons signaling their surrender to the human battleship. Others tried desperately to restart their engines and escape to deep space, where they could warn their homeworlds about this terrifying new threat. The Iron Phoenix waited patiently for the alien response. Captain Lee understood the difficult position Admiral Vex Thera was in. He had given the enemy commander multiple opportunities to avoid this destruction, but Vorthan pride had made compromise impossible. Now thousands of alien lives hung in the balance. Commander Park Soo reported from his tactical station. Sir, we are detecting movement from the surviving ships. Some appear to be preparing to surrender, while others are attempting emergency repairs. Shall we continue disabling operations or wait for their formal response? Captain Lee considered the tactical situation carefully. The battle was essentially over, but he did not want to appear too eager for alien surrender. The galaxy needed to understand that human mercy was a choice, not a weakness. The Iron Phoenix could destroy every remaining ship whenever he decided. Let them make their decision. He finally replied, we have demonstrated our capabilities. Now we wait to see if they are wise enough to accept reality. The age of Vorthan dominance is over, whether they acknowledge it or not. Space grew quiet around the disabled alien fleet. Many ships had gone completely dark, while others flickered with emergency lighting. The massive human battleship floated calmly among the wreckage like a shark swimming through a school of injured fish. Admiral Vex Thera finally understood that his empire had made a catastrophic error in judgment. They had attacked a species that possessed technology centuries ahead of their own. The humans were not primitive farmers. They were sleeping giants who had chosen to remain hidden until, provoked with great difficulty, he activated his emergency communication system and sent a message to the Iron Phoenix. "This is Admiral Vex Thera of the Vorthan Fleet. I formally surrender my remaining ships to human authority and request mercy for my surviving crews." The words tasted like poison in his mouth, but they were necessary to save lives. The greatest military defeat in galactic history was complete. News of the great battle traveled across the galaxy faster than the speed of light itself. Every species from the ice worlds at the galactic rim to the burning systems near the core received detailed reports of how a single human battleship had destroyed the mighty Vorthan invasion fleet in less than 1 hour. Ambassador Cho Min-ae sat in her office aboard the diplomatic station orbiting Nexus Prime, reading message after message from alien governments who had ignored humanity for decades. Suddenly, every major civilization wanted immediate meetings with human representatives. Species who had been planning their own attacks on human colonies hastily recalled their fleets. The Hegemony Council, which governed most galactic trade and politics, called an emergency session for the first time in 50 years. They formally invited a human delegate to address the full assembly, something that had never happened before. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted overnight, and everyone knew it. On Earth, the news caused celebrations in every human city. Admiral Kim Jae-ho appeared on communication screens throughout human space, his weathered face showing both pride and concern. "Citizens, we have achieved a great victory today, but this is only the beginning. Our long period of hiding is over, and the galaxy now knows our true strength." Captain Lee received new orders while the Iron Phoenix escorted the surviving Vorthan ships back to the border. Admiral Kim himself appeared on the main bridge screen, looking tired but determined. "Excellent work, Captain, but we must prepare for what comes next. Intelligence reports suggest 12 other species were planning to test human defenses within the year." The captain listened carefully as his superior continued. "Our demonstration of power has bought us time, but it has also revealed our capabilities. Earth Defense Command is activating the rest of the fleet. It is time to show the galaxy exactly what humanity has been building in secret for 50 years across human space." Massive construction facilities that had been disguised as mining operations began revealing their true purpose. The Iron Phoenix was not alone. It was merely the first of 50 identical battleships, each one capable of defeating entire enemy fleets. The galaxy was about to discover that humans had been very busy during their decades of apparent weakness. Lieutenant Commander Yang Sujin presented her intelligence analysis to the senior staff. Based on intercepted communications, every major power is now reassessing their military capabilities compared to ours. The Crystalline Confederacy has requested immediate non-aggression talks. The machine collectives are withdrawing from border regions, but not everyone was ready to accept the new reality. Some ancient civilizations viewed human strength as a threat to their own dominance. The Void Singers, who considered all physical life forms to be inferior, began gathering their energy fleets in the galactic core. They had existed for millions of years and would not bow to upstart mammals. The parasitic swarm queens accelerated their expansion programs, hoping to consume enough worlds to match human power before humanity could stop them. Their living ships spread like a plague through the Outer Rim territories, devouring everything in their path. Commander Park Sue studied the intelligence reports with growing concern. "Captain, it appears our victory has triggered something. Larger multiple hostile species are forming a coalition specifically designed to counter human expansion. They call themselves the Old Powers Alliance." Admiral Vex Thera sat in detention aboard a human transport ship, writing his final report to the Vorthan High Command. His forearms moved slowly over the recording device as he tried to explain the impossible defeat his fleet had suffered to the Supreme Council. He began his transmission. "I must report the complete destruction of the Third Invasion Fleet by a single human vessel. The enemy possesses technology that renders our most advanced weapons completely useless. We have gravely underestimated their capabilities." He paused, struggling to find words that could convey the magnitude of their mistake. "The humans were never weak farmers and traders as our intelligence suggested. They have been deliberately concealing military forces that surpass anything in known space. I recommend immediate diplomatic contact before they decide. We are too dangerous to allow survival. Similar messages were being sent throughout the galaxy as the reality of human power became undeniable. The species that had dismissed humanity as primitive now scrambled to avoid becoming targets themselves. Trade routes shifted overnight as merchant ships sought the protection of human patrol. Zon's ambassador Cho Min-ae found herself the most important diplomat in the galaxy. Representatives from dozens of civilizations requested audiences with her. The small human embassy on Nexus Prime had to expand into 3 additional buildings, just to handle all the meeting requests, but the most significant changes were happening in the criminal, underworld slave traders who had operated freely for centuries. Suddenly found their ships being hunted by human patrol vessels. Pirates discovered that attacks on any vessel in human-protected space brought swift and devastating retaliation. The Vorthan Empire itself began to collapse as subject species declared independence, knowing that human forces would protect them from retaliation. Worlds that had been enslaved for generations suddenly found themselves free to choose their own governments. Captain Lee stood on the observation deck of his ship watching a convoy of refugee vessels heading toward human space. These were former slaves and conquered people seeking protection under Earth's defense treaty. The Iron Phoenix and her sister ships had become symbols of hope for the oppressed across the galaxy. Lieutenant Kim Dae-yoon reported from the communications center. Captain, we are receiving applications from over 40 species requesting membership in the Human Defense Compact. The Traders Guild wants to establish permanent bases in our territory. The Scientific Council is offering technology exchanges, but with great power came great responsibility. Captain, Lee knew that humanity could not simply impose their will on the galaxy like the old empires had done. They had to prove that strength could be used to protect rather than dominate. That was the real test of human character. The Iron Phoenix continued its patrol routes through space that was now under human protection. Where once alien warships had terrorized peaceful merchants, now human battleships ensured safe passage for all. The galaxy was learning that there was a new sheriff among the stars, and this one actually cared about justice. The age of conquest and slavery was ending whether the old powers liked it or not. Humanity had announced itself as the new guardian of galactic peace. 1 year after the Great Battle, the galaxy looked completely different from what it had been before. Captain Lee A-hwan now held the rank of Fleet Admiral and commanded 20 human battleships patrolling the space where the Vorthan Empire used to rule. Where once alien slavers and conquerors had spread fear, now human peacekeepers made sure all merchant ships could travel safely. The Iron Phoenix had become the flagship of the most powerful fleet in galactic history, but it was used for protection rather than conquest. Admiral Lee stood in the observation lounge of humanity's first deep space fortress, watching ships from dozens of different species docking together peacefully, something that would have been completely impossible under the old system of imperial rule. Ambassador Cho Min-ae had been elected as the first human member of the reformed Galactic Council. Her patient diplomatic work, backed by the obvious power of Earth's revealed military, had created the most stable period of peace the galaxy had experienced in over 1,000 years. The threat of human intervention kept warlike species in check, while their protection encouraged trade and cooperation. The transformation had not been easy. Some of the ancient powers, like the Machine Collective, still viewed humanity with deep suspicion. Others, like the mysterious Void Singers, had retreated to the galactic core and remained dangerously unpredictable. But for the first time in recorded history, the strongest military force was also the most benevolent. Former Vorthan territories had been converted into free zones where any species could establish colonies without fear of attack. The refugees who had escaped slavery were building their own governments, with human advisors helping them establish fair laws and democratic institutions. Children who had never known freedom were learning to read and write in schools built by human engineers. Admiral Park Soo reviewed daily reports from across human space. The Vorthan survivors have established peaceful settlements in the outer rim sectors, so their former slave species are creating independent governments with our constitutional guidance. Even the Swarm Queens have stopped their expansion and requested diplomatic talks. The greatest victory was not military but philosophical. Humanity had proven that true strength came from protecting the weak rather than exploiting them. The old empires built on conquest and fear crumbled as their subject peoples demanded the same freedoms that humans offered to everyone who asked for help. Lieutenant Commander Yang Sujin monitored the constant flow of diplomatic messages. Admiral, we are receiving membership applications from 63 species for the Human Protection Treaty. The Crystal Confederacy wants to formalize technology sharing agreements. The trader guilds are requesting permanent embassy status. Admiral Lee smiled as he watched alien children playing with human kids. In the station's recreational areas, former enemies were learning together in educational facilities that taught cooperation instead of competition. Young Vorthans who had been raised to believe in conquest now competed in sports and academic contests. Instead of planning military campaigns, the Old Powers Alliance had fallen apart when its member species realized that humans were not interested in dominating them. Several ancient civilizations that had initially opposed human expansion now served as willing partners in maintaining galactic peace. The fear of human retaliation had been replaced by respect for human fairness. Captain Park Minho commanded one of the newer human battleships patrolling the former swarm territories. Admiral, latest intelligence reports show remarkable changes across all sectors. Piracy has dropped by 90%. Slave trading has been completely eliminated from our patrol zones. Independent worlds are reporting record levels of economic growth. The human fleet had grown to include vessels from allied species, who contributed their own ships to the peacekeeping efforts. But the Iron Phoenix remained the symbol of the new order, a reminder that those who chose aggression over cooperation would face consequences they could not imagine. Admiral Lee received his final promotion orders from Earth Command, along with authorization to establish permanent human bases throughout the galaxy. The message came directly from the President of Earth herself. We are no longer hiding among the stars, she said. We are taking our rightful place as guardians of galactic civilization. The communication continued. Humanity has been given a great gift, the power to reshape the galaxy for the better. We must use this responsibly to ensure that future generations inherit a universe based on justice rather than fear. You have begun this work, Admiral. Now you must finish it. Standing before the massive windows of the space station, Admiral Lee watched the steady stream of ships arriving from every corner of the galaxy. Species that had been enemies for millennia now worked together on joint projects. Former slave worlds sent their brightest young people to human universities to learn about freedom and democracy. The Iron Phoenix floated nearby, its weapons powered down but ready to respond if any threat emerged. The great battleship was no longer a symbol of hidden strength but a beacon of hope for all who sought to live free among the infinite stars. Its very presence reminded everyone that the age of conquest was over. Ambassador Cho Min-ae sent her weekly report to Earth. The Galactic Council has unanimously approved the Human Peace Accords, she wrote. Every major civilization has agreed to the new standards for interspecies relations. War between member species is now forbidden, and all disputes must be resolved through diplomatic negotiation. The transformation was nearly complete. Pirates who had terrorized space lanes for centuries found themselves hunted by joint patrols of human and allied ships. Warlords who had built empires on slavery discovered that their former victims now had powerful protectors. Corrupt governments that had oppressed their own people faced demands for reform backed by the promise of human intervention. Young Admiral Kim Min-seo took command of the newest human battleship as it prepared for its maiden voyage to the galactic rim. Sir, her communications officer reported, we are receiving a message from the Void Singers. They want to discuss ending their isolation and joining the galactic community. Even the most ancient and mysterious species were beginning to understand that the universe had changed. The old ways of dominance through fear and violence were being replaced by cooperation and mutual respect. The galaxy was growing up and learning that civilization was stronger than barbarism. Admiral Lee looked out at the stars, knowing that humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning. They had revealed their hidden strength and used it wisely. They had become the protectors the galaxy had been waiting for. Without realizing it, the Iron Phoenix and her sister ships would continue their eternal patrol, making sure that freedom and justice spread to every corner of the universe. The arrival of humanity's battleship had not just shaken the heavens, it had remade them entirely. And this was only the beginning of humanity's true destiny among the stars as guardians of a new golden age of galactic peace.